Hello, everyone. This is Caleb Leverett, and I am in a new spot, and I'm real excited about it. Tamara and I have moved up to the mountains in Wyoming, and I'm not going to say exactly where for safety concerns, but it is absolutely gorgeous. I tried to get my little podcast set up where you could see the mountains behind me, but the lighting wasn't right, and I'm not even going to worry about it. So, anyways, uh, Wyoming is just absolutely gorgeous. I love it up here. It's so peaceful. And I've titled this Caleb Goes to AA for a reason, not because I'm an alcoholic, because I'm not an alcoholic. For those of you who watched my podcast last summer, uh, I talked quite a bit about my thoughts on AA, and basically my thoughts on AA were I didn't know anything about it. And now I still don't know a whole lot about it, but I've gone to two. I've gone to two AA meetings. I said back then that I had planned on going to one to see what it was all about, and I have to admit I was wrong. I was wrong. Um, I'm also glad that I went to two. The first one I went to was, and I'm not even going to say the town, but just say it was in Florida, and it left me with a really bad, bitter taste in my mouth on one hand, but on the other hand, it left me with a little sense of self satisfaction, thinking, you know what, I suspected I was kind of right, but I'm really glad that I went to one here in well, I can't say which town I'm in, but um, in Wyoming. And I was a little bit reluctant to go. Um, she's gone for years and years. She's got her reasons for going, which I'm not going to get into. Well, it's her business. She may come on the podcast someday and talk about it. We've talked about it, but I can speak. And since I can't speak for her, but I can speak for me. And I have to admit, I really enjoyed yesterday. Today is December 31st, 2023. 12323 123 123, I think, is the date. So it's the very last day. We went, well, it was either yesterday or the day before, I can't remember. Yeah, I want to say it was yesterday. It's lovely up here. We go on so many hikes that I kind of am pleased that I'm happy that I lose kind of track of time. Sometimes I don't know what day it is. The sun sets around 4:30 here, and it's really kind of cool, especially in the winter solstice. And I think 2 or 3 days after the winter solstice happened, there was a full moon. There was a lot of snow on the ground, and you could walk outside and pee out in the wild blue yonder. A, nobody would see, and B, it was just really nicely well lit. And it was beautiful because of the moonlight. But anyways, a lot of you may have heard me last summer when I carried on this podcast for, I don't know, a couple months, almost every day for at least an hour, sometimes two or three. But I had talked. The reason I'm making this is I had made my podcast called Recovered Podcast, because I am fully recovered. That's the reason I made it like that. And I still to this day stand by my stance that I am fully 100% recovered. And I got a lot of flack from that, or at least may not flack. At the very least, I got a lot of people say, "Whoa, whoa, hey, that's not right, Caleb. Once you're an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic." Um, I still stand by my stance that I am not an alcoholic, and the way I can say that is I've not touched alcohol in 3.5 years. And let's just face it, the world drinks. Most people drink. I, not being most people, do not drink, and so therefore, in my logic, I do not see how I can be an alcoholic. However, that is one thing that I've noticed that every single person that I saw in the AA meeting, and they all said that. Hi, my name is so and so, and I'm an alcoholic. And everybody instinctively around the table says, "Hi, so and so." and they talk. And again, this is not a slam to AA at all. This I'm pointing out some differences I have with the group or the organization. It's not. It is an organization. It's not an organization. As far as Tamara pointed this out, as far as anarchy goes, it's the most anarchist organization there is. It just exists. Someone wrote the book of which I have not read, and someone has wrote these 12 steps of which I did not intentionally go by. However, that's one thing that I like about AA and my own way of getting completely 100% sober is we both went about it. People that go through AA versus people like myself, we both, it's two different ways to arrive at basically the same conclusion. And I like that. Basically, in my experience, and again, it is anonymous. I didn't have to say my name, but and I'm obviously not going to say anyone else's names that were in there. But those are some of the most real people. This is not including the one I went to in Florida. That was apparently an anomaly. It's a wonder I ever went back because it was I wouldn't say it was a horrible experience, but if that was what AA was all about, then I would have never, ever, A, gone back, and B, I would have never recommended it to anybody. So that's the reason I said that I'm glad that, being up here in Wyoming, I'm glad that I did go back. I'm glad I did try a new one because it was very, 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 very different. And I dare say the type of people there are some of the most um, real people I've ever met in my life. I didn't speak other than to say, hi, my name's Caleb, and I'm not an alcoholic, and I'm just here to observe. And after everyone went around the room talking about the topic of the day, I was greeted, and I was greeted immediately by the leader of the group. Very, very kind, very warm, very welcoming. And after it was over, I had a couple of people approach me there and just talk, and they're very kind. They weren't judgmental, or at least not to my face. They know everybody. Let's face it, everybody judges everybody every single day. Anytime you go out in public, you are constantly judging every individual that you come across. That's just human nature. And some may say, what do you mean by that? Well, I'll give you some examples. If you're a woman, you're going to judge, particularly men, particularly maybe big burly men, especially if they've got a hood on or sunglasses, and you're going to judge, or at least, and not publicly, but to yourself, is this person safe? Is this person going to harm me, or is this person going to be nice? And if you're a woman with young children, you're going to judge even probably more harshly, and as you should, all parents should. If you're going to be walking public with people you love and care about, you should judge everybody. Now, you don't have to say anything. You don't have to say it to their face. And again, that's what I don't think. And none of them said anything to my face. And they were kind and they're polite. There's an atmosphere around AA where people just talk about owning their own fuck ups, and I like that. I like that a lot. Far too often, the people I've come across in the world on social media and some in real life, but very few people seem to want to accept responsibilities for their own screw ups, their own bad choices in life. Everyone has had bad things happen to them. If it was, maybe it was when they were a child, or maybe it was a ex spouse or an ex boyfriend or girlfriend. That tends to happen a lot when you're young and you've got hormones raging and you want sex, and um, but it it changes as you get older. I kind of lost my train of thought. Forgive me. The snow is melting out there, and it makes these funny noises when it falls off the roof. But um, back to where I was, the people there at AA are some of the most real people, especially that many of them in one group of people owning their own screw ups. And again, I'm obviously not going to give any names, but and I don't think it's as I don't really fully know the rules of AA, and I know there are some about promoting and not promoting, and one of the big ones is anonymous, but I'm not going to give any names. But I don't think is any big deal if I give some of the testimony that I heard. There's people from all walks of life. There's mothers there. There's fathers there. There's people without children. There was a lawyer there. There was a geologist there. Um, those are just two off the top of my head, and the only reason I even knew that is because they said it out loud, and it was to use a pun. It was sobering, watching all these people admitting that they'd made mistakes. There was one mother in there her testimony was that she had a problem back then with alcohol. She couldn't, wouldn't, didn't, whatever, admit it back then. She got divorced, and her ex-husband withheld the kids through the court system. And she said she hated him. She was angry at him. She was just appalled that he would do that. And she also admitted that after she got sober and after she went through the 12 steps of taking ownership of her own poor choices, that she was actually glad that her ex-husband did that, and she thanked him for doing that. And now their families begun the process of healing. And I thought that was very, very, very powerful. uh, we all know that this world's screwed up, and I, I'm kind of in the position I would know about a lot of these things that happen, the bad in the family courts, and I'm fully aware that yes, it's true that 80 to 90% of women get their way mostly in court, but they're also 10 to 20% of the time the women do not get their way. Sometimes it's for nefarious reasons, and sometimes it's because it's the right thing. And in that situation, especially with giving her own testimony, it was the right thing to do. He did do the right thing because apparently, according to her, he wasn't an alcoholic and she was, and it was harming the children. So, to I don't know what degree, she didn't go into details, obviously, but anyways, again, I highly recommend anyone who's struggling with any kind of substance is more than just alcohol, and anything, whatever you're addicted to, that's harming you, whether it's alcohol or street drugs or prescription pills or pornography or sex addiction or anything that you're addicted to that doesn't fulfill that void that you keep doing, that is harming yourself even if you don't think it is. You will come to a realization that those things are harmful, and AA most certainly can help, because you can really call it Alcoholics Anonymous, Prescription Pills Anonymous, Porn Anonymous, um, a lot of different things, because what they talk about is basically just self ownership, making yourself a better person and acknowledging that you've made mistakes, making a list of people you have harmed and being honest about that list. You may not, most addicts don't realize what they're doing. Or a lot of them, I would say, they don't necessarily realize how harmful what they're doing to themselves, their behavior harms their others, whether it's friends and family, or driving while intoxicated, or talking shitty to your own children or to your spouse. So I think it I think it is overall a good thing. Now, again, there are a few things that I find um, I just simply disagree with. I did not say I was an alcoholic. When I first one I went to, I just said, hi, my name's Caleb, and I passed. But I was a guest at this place, as I was last one, but I was a guest there, and I was going to be polite, but also I'm not into groupthink at all. I don't like groupthink. I don't subscribe to it. It's just not me. And it again, I don't think I am an alcoholic because I haven't drank in 3.5 years. I have no desire to drink. It's the last thing on my mind. I've had some mostly good days since I've recovered, but like everybody else, I've had some shitty days. I've had some hard days, some tough days. My grandmother died this year. She was a week away from her 99th birthday. And it wasn't really that hard because she had lived a completely full life. I've had some other hard things happen, but never once in any of these difficult situations that I've had, never once did I think, you know what? This sucks too bad. I think I'm going to slide and fall off the wagon and go get some fucking booze. That never, ever crossed my mind. And so if I don't think about alcohol, in fact, and I don't drink alcohol, in fact, I get kind of irritated when I'm on social media and I see drunks behaving drunkly and I see ads constantly being thrown at me for various types of alcohol. It's annoying to me. So therefore, I say that I am absolutely not an alcoholic. If you want to do the AA way and that works for you, by all means, you'll never hear any grief from me. I may joke and kid, and I have done that a little bit, and perhaps too harshly sometimes. It's been pointed out by people that I do care about that sometimes I do joke about things. I can say this: I probably need to be a little more aware of things that I joke about that may not be funny. And at the same time, on the opposite side of that coin is some people just need to toughen the fuck up. I can't, nor can anyone else make anyone else do anything, but I can change myself. And at least I know about it now. And I can decide whether or not at the moment to make jokes about that thing or not. I've always used humor that's one thing about me. I've used humor as a coping mechanism. I've joked with Blaine in front of Blaine, with Blaine, about making jail jokes about we've both got thrown into jail for basically bullshit reasons. And I'll make jokes about it. And it doesn't bother Blaine at all. So, anyways, again, I want to reiterate how much I appreciate Alcoholics Anonymous and what they do, and I do highly recommend it. And I guess I have to say, no, nobody's making me say this. I'm not being paid to say this. I simply wanted to talk about this only because it kind of goes along with me, since I alone told myself that I was an alcoholic for 7 years after Parker was taken from me. And so therefore I alone claim that I'm no longer an alcoholic. But again, if that works for you, by all means, have at it. Say you're an alcoholic and talk about your problems and uh, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word. Talk to others. Fellowship. That's the word. Oh, I had a brain fart. Fellowship with others about your story, because sometimes you I was surprised at the different realms of like careers that people had, and they're open about A, making these mistakes, and B, what they did for a living. Because a lot of us sometimes have this idea, well, this person's highly successful. This person's a doctor, a lawyer, an actor, or whatever. They must have all their shit together. No, 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 not necessarily. Some of them may, and I hope that they do, but the reality is it doesn't matter what your income is, or what your socioeconomic status is, or how many followers you have on Instagram. People have problems and they get depressed. And some of us deal with things with alcohol. Some of us deal with it in, the myriad of sins that you yourself can come up with. I dealt with mine with alcohol and somewhat sex addiction, but not really. I thought maybe I did because I've got a past, and I'm not proud of it. I wished I hadn't have done things like that. I've done some simpy bullshit and just to get laid, and I'm kind of embarrassed. Not kind, I am embarrassed about it, but I have to own it. I absolutely have to own it because there's no way I was ever going to grow as a person if I did not. I think all of us have to do that. I think that's part of the problem with this world, and um, it's not hard to see that something's messed up. It's hard to put your finger on exactly what is messed up, but it's not hard to see that something's not right in the world. And I, like everyone else, I'm trying my best to see what it is. And part of it is alcohol. Part of it is other kinds of drugs. Part of it is pornography. Um, I have my own personal opinions about sex, drug, alcohol, rock and roll, Hollywood, of which I'm not prepared to talk about publicly. Certainly not on this channel. For I just for basically just I'll be real honest with you, fear of getting demonetized, because I would. I've got some opinions that I'm quite certain would get me completely yanked from all social media. And some of you may be thinking, well, what could it possibly be? Well, you're just going to have to either read between the lines or not worry about it, because I'm not prepared to talk about it because I don't want to get demonetized. Some of you who already are aware of what I'm talking about know exactly what I'm talking about, and you also will understand exactly why I cannot and will not talk about it. And all I can say to that is to find out who controls you and controls the world. And the people who control the world are responsible for leading the world into the shambles that it currently is in. Anyway, to find out who controls you and is ruining the world, find out who you're not allowed to criticize. And that is where the blame is. The people who are doing this are coincidentally almost always, not all, but almost always the people that are promoting pornography and sex, drugs, and rock and roll and alcohol this and party this and just get your body count as high as possible. And what that does, it does different things for men and women. For men, it makes you weak. It makes you make bad choices. It gives you a beer belly, especially if you keep doing it for a long time. It gives you liver problems. It makes you make bad choices as far as your career moves. It makes you make bad investments. When you make bad investments, you get, as Dave Ramsey has famously said, broke, dumb, and stupid. And when you were broke, dumb, and stupid, you still have a libido. Lobotomy. You still have a libido, and you will go for getting laid however you can. That's where the term incel came from, involuntary celibate. You may have a lot of money or no money at all, but you get big and fat and gross, and the only way you can get any kind of action is with your money. And that is why the OnlyFans people, women of OnlyFans, make so much money, is because they are being funded by simps, by incels, by insecure, drunken, or drugged up, or sex addicts, men who treat women horribly. It's one thing, and I'm no exception. It's one thing to mock a lot of these modern women, but it's another thing to, if you find a good woman, if you treat her just as the same way, don't be surprised when that you get shunned and turned away. Will in turn make these men, which what it does, makes them even more angry and more sexually frustrated, and only makes them want to engage in the behavior even more. It's a snowball effect. It's a vortex. It just sucks you in. For the women, it gives you a high body count. It puts you at risky situations of getting pregnant. It gets you in the situation where you feel you may have to end the fetus's life and remove it. And the new world tells us that is such a good thing. The more, the merrier. They think they're promoting that it's only up to you, and you've got more things to live for. Well, you do have a lot more to live for, but part of the risk of having sex is getting pregnant. That's and the only reason any of us are here today is because mommy and daddy did the dirty. uh, your age plus 9 months ago. So anyway, when women get this high body count, a lot of men don't. They've learned to, the simps and the incels have learned to detach their humanity from them, and um, they find it repulsive and disgusting, but they can look past it long enough to get a piece of their own. High caliber men, high quality men look at it and they are not only disgusted, but not they would also never touch these women with these high body counts with a 10-foot pole. At one point in my life, I was that disgusting person. I was that simp. I was broke and I was poisoning myself and I was chasing and accepting getting any piece of ass that I thought I could possibly bother to put forth the effort to go get. And I was contributing to that behavior because it's no big secret. Women like the attention. They like attention, especially in a healthy monogamous relationship. They like attention from their husbands. If you don't believe me, husbands, if you're having problems, you might want to try it because it works. But when you're damaged and you've given it all away and you sleep with anybody that walks or with the to pay it, take money from the highest bidder, and the world knows about it, then you've become a low value in the eyes of high value men. I don't am not a woman, so I can't even pretend to know what it was like, what it must feel like. I've got an idea, and I don't really know how it is a woman would go about fixing themselves. But for men, I do. And the only reason I know this is because I am one. I've gone from being fat, lost, dumb, drunk, some drugs, but not a whole lot drugs outside of alcohol. And make no mistake, alcohol is a drug. Um, People just colloquially say drugs and alcohol as if there's something significantly different. The only difference is alcohol is the drug of choice of the politicians. Therefore, it is legal to an extent as long as it's highly regulated, meaning as long as they get their cut. And as long as they get their cut, whether it's on the regulation side or the, the the police industrial complex where cops and lawyers make a fortune off of you drinking and driving because you think it's funny and cool because that's what Kid Rock does, or various other lost asshole celebrities who you worship and adore. They get away with it, and you think you can too, and it's just not how the world works. If you are a celebrity worshiper, I highly encourage you to examine your life and what you find important, because that is uh, that is going to cause you'll become a simp. They'll when they do things that you've been a fan for a long time, and they do things that you've either don't find as appropriate, or you uh, learn as you grow older they're inappropriate, and they continue to do those things, you'll find yourself defending them and defending their actions, and it just makes you part of the problem. So anyway, I didn't quite mean to get on that kind of a tear. That's just kind of the things that have been going through my mind now that before I went to AA, but certainly since I've gone to AA. um, I've had a lot of time to reflect on myself, and that's why I don't trust a lot of preachers. Yeah, they tell you how you should live and what you should do and stay away from these sins, and yet they are doing much of that themselves. And I don't trust organized religion whatsoever. However, I mean, while I'm on this rant and telling how what I've been up to, that's another thing. I never did go completely atheist. Whenever Parker was taken from me, and I got set off on my 7-year drunken journey, but I did renounce all organized religion, and I still do. And I was agnostic, probably to a fault. I've since come to realize that there most definitely is, in my opinion, for me, this is just what works for me. There is some kind of creator. There's some kind of energy that is well beyond the comprehension of any human being on earth. I think there are certain humans who are enlightened and to a point to their consciousness makes them aware of some of what's out there. I don't claim to be one of those myself necessarily. I've got my suspicions on some things, that experiences that I've had that there is, and that is why I think what I think. I just don't know exactly what the energy is, and so therefore I just simply call it the energy. I don't necessarily call it God. Sometimes I'll refer to it as God, but I don't necessarily use that because that term just is so overused. It's kind of like the word narcissist. Have y'all noticed in the last 3 to 5 years that the word narcissist, everybody knows, has that term narcissist on the tip of their tongue? And the vast majority that is, don't even have a clue what a narcissist is. That's just what they heard. They heard someone say it and it sounds cool, and they don't even really know what it is. That's the reason I don't use the word God very often. I just simply call it the energy. And yes, I know it sounds a little different when I say it in front of people, which I don't do very often because I don't talk about my spiritual beliefs very much in public for reasons, or my main just reason is there are so many different kinds and types of religions and people with different gods and beliefs of morality that it never fails when I do start talking about it. And you get these weirdos that just want to argue and bitch and moan about how wrong you are. I don't see the point of it. Um, the New Testament, Jesus himself talks about the way to pray, and it's in the closet, away from the public, where you're alone and you speak to his Father by yourself, and not like the hypocrites on the street corner. So therefore, that's why I do keep most of that to myself. Occasionally, I will talk about it in person with individuals on an individual basis. If I know that person well enough, occasionally, like such as right now, I'll bring it up on a little podcast here. But generally speaking, I don't talk about it. I'd rather just live my own morality, and my part of my morality is being kind to those who are deserving of it. And for men, you're you're supposed to, in my opinion, you're not supposed to drink alcohol. You're not supposed to do drugs. You're not supposed to engage and screw everything that walks. You're supposed to make yourself the most ripped, the most aware, the most spiritually grounded version of yourself that you can be. And many people will tell you that is you being selfish. Well, I'm here to tell you, I don't think it's being selfish, men. You are supposed to take care of yourself first. Women, lost women, I guess I should say, obviously not all women. It gets irritating sometimes when I have to always, someone catches me talking about something when they haven't been watching anything I said. They just catch a clip of what I say. Well, he just degraded women. He said all women are blah, blah, blah. No, but I kind of lost my train of thought there because I get so many things coming at me at once. Um, I hate it when I do that. Oh, as far as well, what I basically was saying, what men are supposed to do. Oh yeah, that's what I was talking about. Taking care of yourself. There's a reason when you're up in an airplane and the oxygen masks fall down that they say that you're supposed to put it on yourself first. And the reason is not because you're not showing love to your little cheering next to you or your spouse next to you. It's because if you can't fucking breathe, then you can't do anything to help them. You've got to take care of yourself first, men. And this goes for women too. I think all human beings, you got to take care of yourself first. That doesn't mean to be a greedy gut, doesn't mean be stingy. It just means you, in your daily life, you must rest every day. You must drink plenty of water every day. You must exercise and raise your heart rate every single day. You must watch your diet and not overindulge. These are all, if you are a religious person on the Christian side, these are some of the seven deadly sins. You can't overeat. You're not men, you're women, people, you're not supposed to get drunk all the time. You're not supposed to get drunk at all, because if you're drunk, what happens? If somebody comes after someone you love, you can't do anything about it. And again, look at this world in which we live. There are crazy people. There's just people flooding into the country. There are people with no responsibility. There's people that in power that are completely out of control. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know this. You don't stand a chance if you're a big, fat, drunken slob of surviving this. You just don't. And if you have young children that are depending on you, you absolutely must be rested. You must drink plenty of water. You must eat properly, and you must exercise. And in my not so humble opinion, you must be right spiritually. And for men in particular, you've got to get your fucking pocketbooks right. And if you're spending money on alcohol, it's not making you healthy. If you're spending your money on pornography, it's not making you wealthy. If you're wasting your money on this bullshit that is harming your spiritual side, your pocketbook, your physical side, then you are wasting your life and you're not there to protect your children as you should. And yes, I am talking to myself as well. I'm open that I was a drunk for 7 years. I labeled myself that because that is the truth. Now, that doesn't mean that I was completely shit faced, hammered all day, every day, 365 days a year for 7 years. That's not what that means. I was what many people call a functioning alcoholic. When I woke up in the morning, the last thing on earth I wanted to do is drink alcohol. And it's probably because I had a hangover, but I had to go to work and I had to pay my bills. And then for 3 years, I drove from Odessa, Texas to San Antonio, Texas, every other Friday, take off work, and go get my cheerings, spend time with them, spend money on them, and then get back. And I wasn't drinking while I was driving to get my children. I wasn't staying drunk with or having beers with the kids, with the boys. That's not how that worked. I drank at night by myself to go to sleep. It got worse towards the end, and that's what made me quit. Especially 'cause I quit during COVID, like when the whole world was shut down and except for liquor stores, of course. Liquor stores, the powers that be weren't going to shut those down. They made drive-through lines and made it streamlined, where you can just get the booze out there and let them make their money. Anyway, during COVID, when so many other people were going up in their alcohol consumption and making the powers that be more wealthy by having and consuming more alcohol, I, on the other hand, was going the other direction. Now, there for a while, yeah, in the beginning of COVID, yeah, I was locked. There's lockdown. There's nothing to do. Yeah, I was drinking more, and that's really when I knew that there's a problem. Sometimes I think as early as like 10 o'clock, 10:30. Fuck it. Not do anything else. Might as well get drunk or start drinking, pass out, wake up, run my mouth on how ridiculous I thought COVID was online, get banned, talk to some friends, and get drunk in, go to sleep, repeat. And it was getting bad. And that's when I knew I had to do something about it. So on August 21st of 2020, I said, fuck this, fuck alcohol. I quit, and I've never, ever, ever, ever looked back. Not one time have I thought to myself, you know what? I really regret quitting drinking. I regret looking like a Greek god at age 46. I just don't know about this sleeping healthy at night. I don't know. I don't know if I really like having these nice, proper bowel movements. I just don't know what I think about this spread. Never once has that ever crossed my mind. And I guess that comes, the reason I even say that comes around to my initial ignorant, I might add, opinion of AA. I just didn't like it. You had that. I thought that they said you had to go every single day And I was wrong. You don't necessarily have to. In fact, one thing I do like about AA is every single part about it is voluntary. Every single part, whether it's you as an attendee, if you decide to be attendee, you can speak or not speak. If you want to be a group leader or someone who reads their prayer out loud or organizes it or pays the rent or everything and all the money there, it's all voluntary. You can give it. They pass this some. I think the both of the meetings I went to, they do pass around a can or a bucket or a hat or something, much like the the preachers do, or I was raised in the Baptist church. But you can give a buck or not give a buck. You can give, but even then, they've got a limit. You can only give so much, and if you give more than that, I don't know. I'm sure I don't know what they do, but they do not take corporate sponsors at all. And I like that. And I was talking to Tamara, and if I remember correctly, this started back. Bill W. started this back, or maybe it's him and his wife. I'm not sure. Back in 1930, I want to say. And at one point, again, I may be off, so please don't hate me in the comment, or just please correct me in the comment. Don't hate on me. I'm talking. I'm trying to learn. If I'm not mistaken, Bill W. himself went to one of the Rockefellers. Maybe it was John Rockefeller himself, in order to get funding for to help the program go and be successful in getting people off alcohol. And so for whatever reason, he didn't get it, or he's turned down from the foundation or something like that. And upon reflection of being turned down and denied, him and his confidants came to the conclusion, you know what, it's probably a really good idea that we didn't get that kind of grant, because it's taking off by itself, and everyone's got their own chapters around the country or even around the world doing it their own way. There's just a book that they kind of generally go by, as long as you stay, well, with somewhat within the parameters of this. Because what happens when you take corporate money is you owe somebody something, and that's just how the world works. And if you owe somebody money that's a nice person, you're probably you might be all right. But if you owe an asshole like John D. Rockefeller a favor, you're just screwed. And I firmly believe that AA would not be what it is today had they been successful in getting that. Yeah, because again, at the time, I assume Bill W. probably wanted that money. It'd have been nice to have that money, but again, I think it's a nice life lesson learned. You know what? Just because I wanted it and I didn't get it, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. Maybe it's a good thing. I think that could probably apply to a lot of us in our daily lives. Sometimes we want things and we don't get them. Maybe it's not necessarily a bad thing. So personally, I like to reflect on things that didn't go my way. I've not enjoyed being broke most of my adult life, particularly after being in the family courts. At the same time, I sure have learned a lot about myself, and things are coming along a little better. We've got this nice little place. Again, I can't say exactly where I'm at for safety concerns. I will say this: the landlords here are just absolutely amazing people. They're kind people. This is a log cabin that we're in. He and his sons built this by hand. I just thought that was amazing. The wood that makes up the logs of the shell was an old building, like an old farm barn from back in the 1800s. These trees were cut down well over 100 years ago. A friend of his or somebody, an acquaintance, I don't remember, gave him the lumber, and they just had to go pick it up, and then they turned it into this beautiful thing you see here. When I get done, when Tamara and I leave here, I'll probably make some kind of video and go and plug for them, because they are that kind of people. They're that Curtis Curtis. They have that kind of courtesy, and it is just a beautiful place, and I'd love to promote them. But again, I can't do it while I'm here because there's crazy, insane lunatics who stalk me and want to know too much about me. And that's another reason I don't haven't been on this channel much. Um, is I've been going through some things, and there are things that I'm going to start keeping just a little more private, but not completely. Not everything, but um, I do enjoy my privacy. But anyways, I've been 45 minutes into this, and I think I'm going to cut it short or call it quits for the day. I've got to take the little doggy out. She's curled up over there, and I think she's ready to go out. I hope you enjoyed this, me talking about these kinds of things as much as I've enjoyed talking about it myself. Um, I don't know how and to what extent that this channel that I'll be doing stuff like this. It could go one of several different ways, and I just don't know which way it's going to go at the moment. But anyways, y'all take care, stay sober, um, get yourself right with the energy, get your body right, take care of your body, take care of your families, be kind to people who deserve it, and if you're like me, you know, if they don't deserve it, then you just realize it's not your job to save the whole fucking world. So anyways, y'all have a good day and have a very, very happy, productive, sober, strong new year with a vision. Take care. Bye. Consider not hitting your cheer-ins.